Hello, I'm Jerry Mullens. The following film clip depicts the successful completion of a preliminary flight. It is one of a series planned to culminate in the non-stop, non-refuel flight around the world. Even though this particular flight you're about to see was a shakedown cruise, it still set the piston engine closed-course world distance record, more than 10,000 miles and lasting over 3 days. The longest flight I had made previously in the Phoenix was only 4.5 hours. But the 3-day flight was the longest solo flight ever made. This entire project has been made with no outside funds until now. But the task of flying around the world is so much more complex than any other aviation feat that it becomes quite expensive. The benefits to be derived by those who are sponsoring such a flight are tremendous. The flight will take about 6 days, and the media attention covering this event, if properly handled, would greatly benefit the sponsor. After the flight, the aircraft will take its place at the Smithsonian Institution alongside the Spirit of St. Louis and the Wright brothers' first plane. The craft will be seen by approximately 5 million people each year at the museum. And now let's watch as PM Magazine covers the Phoenix in its record-breaking flight.
On board a brand of 747 right now, and with me is pilot Joe Fleming. This particular flight is headed for Honolulu, and I gotta tell you, boy, I'm tempted to be a stowaway.
Come with us.
How long have these planes been in service?
They've been in service, Lisa, since 1970. We have a fleet that flies around the world. We can fly this particular airplane a quarter of the way around the world non-stop. Some interesting trivia here. We're sitting up almost 3 stories. Wingtip to wingtip distance on the 747 is longer than the Wright brothers' first flight at Kitty Hawk.
Wow, we've come a long way.
Yes, we have.
Well, this is certainly the way to fly.
We'd like to have you come with us.
Well, I'm tempted, I tell you. Tonight you're going to meet a man who used to fly for a commercial airline like this until a near-fatal motorcycle accident in 1978 cut his career a little short. Well, tonight you'll meet Jerry Mullens and find that he's latched on to another goal also related to flying. He's bought an unusual plane, a Schweitzer 232 glider, and he spent months preparing it and modifying it for an historical flight. And tonight we're going to go with him and witness a stirring example of one man's courage and determination. It is May 11, 1981, and pilot Jerry Mullens has just completed a hair-raising belly landing at the El Reno Airfield in Oklahoma. Soon he hopes to fly this same aircraft on a closed-circuit course over 11,000 miles without stopping or refueling. That record-breaking attempt will also be a severe endurance test for both man and machine.
Basically, it's an airplane-shaped fuel tank. It holds about 600 gallons of fuel. It has full equipment for instrument flying, and it has a high-lift airfoil, a 63-foot wingspan. The aircraft's 27 feet long, and at maximum weight it will lift off at about 5,600 pounds.
Jerry's record attempt will take him from Oklahoma City to Jacksonville, Florida, and back again 6 times non-stop. If all goes well, the trip should last a little over 4 days.
I'll really be relieved because this has been a terrific chore. This is the hardest thing I've ever tried to do in my life.
Part of that hardship has been financial. Although an Oklahoma City company donated fuel for the flight, total funding is around the 6-figure mark, and it's been mostly personal.
Mainly, though, the sponsorship came from my wife, Grace, who let me take the family finances and ruin them to go ahead and do this program.
We have kind of a real open relationship. He'll let me do almost anything I want to do as long as it doesn't harm me physically, and I try to do the same for him. You have to let people reach their goals if it's possible. I'm fearful for Jerry's safety, but as he tells me, I'm a lot more in danger of driving a car than he is flying a plane.
Well, that may be true, but Jerry is going to be flying for over 72 hours with little sleep, and that puts a whole new perspective on the safety of his flight. One of the records he's going after was established by a B-52 with a crew of nearly a dozen men. Jerry's flight will be solo, and his airborne gas tank will have to perform perfectly if he is to be successful.
Oh, he's coming through now, everybody.
There was not a lot of initial discussion about it. He says, I found this plane I want to buy. I said, good. And, you know, and then it was going, and you're so far into it at that point, it has to be a success.
I'm ready.
It is December 5th, and Jerry Mullens, after months of mechanical problems and weather delays, is ready to go.
Having come through a brush with death, and obviously I'm not dead yet, I feel like every minute that I live I should be doing something worthwhile. Now, opinions may differ as to whether or not this is a worthwhile project, but it's doing something. I feel like I have to do something, and if by doing this project I can maybe inspire someone who maybe was handicapped and has a problem and can come back and do something worthwhile, well then all the better.
All goes well during the first few days of flight. Jerry is constantly busy taking performance data on the modified Schweitzer glider. Food consists of a handful of peanuts or sunflower seeds. The weather is cooperative, and flying occasionally on automatic pilot, Jerry catches short naps. Suddenly, on Monday afternoon, the autopilot malfunctions, and it appears as though Jerry will have to abort his record attempt. But mysteriously, the problem disappears, and early Tuesday afternoon, this was the scene at Oklahoma City's Will Rogers World Airport.
All in all, except for my ignorance about coefficients of friction between steel and concrete, I felt that the landing was okay. Well, the record that I broke was the record that was held by this actual airplane that was set back in 1969.
That mark was almost 9,000 miles. Jerry's flight covered an amazing 10,400 non-stop miles.
I didn't experience any serious physical problems whatsoever.
He was awake for over 3 days and completed 5 round trips between Oklahoma City and Jacksonville. Tired but elated, Jerry has accomplished a difficult goal. A goal he set for himself after his near-fatal motorcycle accident. It was a massive solo effort, one that will probably stay in the record books for a long time to come.
Well, Jerry's not completely satisfied with his most recent accomplishments. In fact, his next goal is to try to fly all the way around the world non-stop and without refueling. And you talk about being exhausted.
Fatigue is an ever-present problem, Lisa. As a matter of fact, most pilots I know mitigate fatigue by using dynamic tension or deep knee bends in the cockpit, or we'll take a stroll and check the environment and talk to the passengers throughout the flight. This helps considerably.
Makes us feel better back there, too.
You betcha.
You stay with us. We're coming back after a short break to take a look at this evening's tips. Joan Embry looks at a fascinating flock of penguins.